I mean, you get nervous here and there when it's going, I don't want to say easy, but when the score is in your favor, it's like you have to be cautious. So a little bit nervous, but obviously I'm super happy to be here in quarters.
Karolina Muchova advances. The scoreline reads convincingly, but it is what unfolded in the aftermath of this match that has commanded the attention of the tennis world. Rather than simply accepting the result and moving on, Muchova did something far more telling. She redirected the conversation toward her opponent, and in doing so, she offered one of the more candid post-match assessments we've heard at this Miami Open. Muchova admitted, plainly and without hesitation, that she was nervous. Not rattled by the occasion, not unsettled by the conditions, but specifically by the player on the other side of the net, by Eala. That is a significant distinction. When a player of Muchova's caliber openly acknowledges anxiety during what appeared, from the outside, to be a controlled performance, it tells you something important about the opponent she was facing. Scorelines can be deceiving. They reflect outcomes, not always the texture of a match, and Muchova was clear that the texture of this one was anything but comfortable. The reason, she explained, was Eala's unpredictability and the momentum she has carried throughout this tournament. Eala has established a reputation here in Miami for composure under pressure, for staying mentally present in high-stakes moments, and for making comebacks feel not just possible, but plausible. That kind of psychological presence forces opponents to remain alert far longer than a lead might otherwise suggest they need to. Even with an advantage in hand, Muchova could not fully exhale. That is the effect a dangerous player has on a match, regardless of what the numbers say. And that brings us to why Muchova's remarks carry weight beyond the expected post-match courtesy. This was not diplomatic generosity. This was a top-level professional acknowledging a genuine competitive threat, one that kept her on edge from the first point to the last. In professional tennis, that kind of respect is earned, not offered freely. What Muchova has effectively communicated is this: Eala is not a player opponents are simply managing. She is a player they are working to contain. And at this stage of her career, on this stage of the sport, that is a meaningful statement. The result belongs to Muchova, but the signal embedded in her words belongs to Eala, and it suggests that we are watching the arrival of a serious, credible force on the WTA tour.
I'd say it's kind of everything, like good preparation, good team around me, good people, playing, keeping healthy, as you mentioned, good practices. It's kind of little pieces of everything, and when it clicks, I'm happy it clicked, and that I'm here playing some good tennis.
Defeat, in sport, is rarely the whole story, and in Eala's case, it is very far from it. What Eala has produced at this Miami Open, across multiple rounds, against established opposition, under genuine competitive pressure, amounts to one of the more compelling individual statements of this tournament. She did not simply appear and absorb the experience. She competed, she dictated, and at key moments, she imposed herself on matches in ways that far exceed what her ranking or profile might have suggested going in. To understand the full scope of that achievement, you have to look at the path she took to get here. Her match against Laura Siegemund was, by any measure, an examination, physically demanding, mentally exhausting, and emotionally draining in the way only extended, high-stakes baseline exchanges can be. Repeated deuces, prolonged rallies, constant momentum shifts that required her to reset and refocus, again and again. Matches of that nature take a toll that statistics do not capture. They can diminish a player for days. What Eala did next, however, told you something important about her character. Against Magdalena, she did not arrive looking fatigued or hesitant. She arrived sharper, more deliberate, more composed. From the opening stages, her intent was clear. She was not managing the match, she was controlling it. Rally construction, shot selection, court positioning, all of it carried a level of tactical maturity that stood well beyond where she is in her career arc. She won the first set 6-3, and it did not feel like an upset. It felt like an accurate reflection of how thoroughly she had commanded proceedings. That is precisely the performance Karolina Muchova had in front of her when she stepped onto the court. Muchova knew what she was facing. She had watched a player who had come through a grueling battle, absorbed everything it demanded, and then responded with arguably her best tennis of the tournament. That context is what made Muchova's subsequent admission, that she was nervous, that she feared a comeback at any moment, so analytically significant. It was not courtesy. It was an honest assessment from a seasoned professional who understood the threat she was managing, even as she managed it effectively. And Muchova did manage it effectively. That must be stated clearly. She executed her game plan with precision, handled the critical junctures with composure, and ultimately demonstrated why she remains one of the more formidable competitors at this level of the sport. She moves forward in the draw having earned her place. But here's what this tournament has clarified for the broader WTA landscape, Eala is no longer a name that requires introduction. She leaves Miami without a title and without advancing further, but she leaves with something that is arguably more durable at this stage of a career. She leaves with credibility, with a body of work across this tournament that has shifted how analysts, opponents, and observers see her. She has demonstrated the capacity to close out high-pressure sets, to recover mentally from demanding matches, and to compete without deference against players with far greater experience. Losses are not setbacks for every player. For some, they are data points, evidence of where the level currently sits and what is required to meet it consistently. If this Miami Open run is an accurate indication of how Eala processes adversity, she is precisely the kind of competitor who converts those data points into progress. Muchova, in praising her opponent so openly and specifically, sent a clear signal to the rest of the tour. Not one of diplomatic generosity, but of professional recognition. That signal carries weight, so while the draw moves on, and while Muchova rightfully commands the immediate spotlight, the broader conversation this tournament has generated, centered, in no small part, on Alexa Eala, will not close with the final point of their match. This is not a conclusion. By every credible measure, it reads as a beginning.